Hello. In this video, I'm going to do a quick start guide for RMS 3, hopefully 15 minutes, just to get you up and running with RMS 3, moving data back and forth to the iPad, and just sort of generally understanding what's going on with the new application. So, first thing you can see here when you launch the application for the first time is you need to select your username. If you're a returning user from RMS2, you'll be in this list, but you will not have a password. You need to type in a new password, and it will then save and update for both the iOS app and the desktop app. So I'm just going to type mine in since I already have one, but it is important to just remember that that's going to be the same password you use for the iOS app and the desktop app. I'm going to just go ahead and pause the video while this loads. Okay, so it takes a little bit to load up there. Just loading Atlas is a little bit time consuming there for the program. So first thing you can see is we just have sort of a simple interface with the navigation bar here. This just shows all of the different tables that can be opened, regens, activities, support tables, and report tables. All those tables will open up here in the middle of the screen, and then we have Atlas 3 interface on the right side. First thing you're going to want to do when you get this open for the first time is just to double check and make sure that you have a district selected. This controls what data is actually visible in RMS, regens, activities, support tables, and reports. This is kind of the main control to tell the application what data you're actually able to see. So make sure you pick a district. Make sure you change your user focus. If you're working on fuel breaks, you want to set yourself to fuel breaks. It does change the support tables and activities to view fuel break activities and support tables. And auto filter active units, that's something we can talk about later in a different part of the manual. So mostly just go ahead and select a district and click Save. You're always going to want to click Save. Any table you're working in, any changes, they always need to be saved. So once you get that set up, you really don't need to go back to that user table in the future unless you're going to change your district. Okay, let's open up all regens. So you can make a filter using this district's watershed or county if you would like to open regens with the filter. It's technically also possible to do that just in the table itself. You can see here we have county names here. You can make a filter, or watershed, you can make a filter here. So just looking at the all regens table, you'll see right away if you click on a feature, it's going to zoom to that feature on the map, and that's because auto zoom is enabled right now. If you disable auto zoom and click here, it's obviously not going to zoom, but sorry, this is supposed to have something showing here. If you don't have G-cell or an area down here, just right click and add those. I think it's important to always have G-cell and area showing down there. So now if I click around, you can see that I have a G-cell of 10. It just helps to know what you actually have selected. It's pretty similar to how you used to be used to working with Atlas, always kind of keeping an eye on what you have selected. Okay, so there is kind of a way to use this that makes more sense. If you're just viewing, say you have these highlighted and you want to keep that selection, but you want to just view a feature, if you click in this kind of empty row, it's called the row selector, it will highlight that row in a different color. And it will also highlight the feature on the map. So it can be a nice way to just kind of make a selection, then you can kind of bounce around and see what that feature is exactly. Just keeping everything one for one. And if you want to zoom to that feature, same with Atlas, you just double click right here on the left side and it will zoom to that feature. Okay, cool. So kind of zooming through this to try to keep it short, let's go ahead and talk about getting activities or getting units and activities out to the iPad. Now, we're using a proper database on a server now at Sierra Pacific, and that means that all the data is not local to your machine. It's on this server, and it's shared with everyone all the time, basically. Same with these layers here, regen, fuel break, and activities. These are all shared layers on the server, meaning that changes to these layers will show up for everybody basically instantly. Of course, that applies also to anything that you do on the iPad. If you save a new activity, edit an activity, it will send that back to the desktop immediately. There's no need for overnight mergers to kind of pull everything in. And there's also no need to import. There's not even an import button on desktop. It's all controlled through the database from the iPad in this case. Once that data is saved, it automatically just sends that out. So let's go ahead and just grab a THP of some sort. Or some sort of logical selection. Maybe we'll just stay here with what we have in view. The default selection method here is this draw box option or select box. I think that's the easiest way. You can do a single with just a click, or you can just drag to select. Obviously that's showing here on the left side now. You can see I have 9 records selected, matches the G cell. That's just sort of like an obsessive compulsive thing that I do to just verify what I have is what I should have. And now let's say you're going to go out here and do some activities. So we need to get these units to the iPad. The way to do that is to just select these. So I'm holding Shift to select. You can hold Control to select, or you can press this button up here in the top left. That's always going to be a select all. So now with these selected, just right click. You can see this context menu has a few options, most of which have to do with active regen units. So that's what we're calling basically an export. Is the unit active? If it is active, that means that you can synchronize that data to the iPad. So in this case, we just want to set these as active. If you already had units active and you had a new selection and you wanted to also work on those units, you would append those units to the active regens list. So basically add to active regens. Or you can view your active regens, at which point you'd be able to make a selection and remove from active regens. So in this case, we're just trying to show these on the iPad. So let's just set as active regens. And now you can see this checkbox is filled for active unit, and you can see that it's active. We technically have a filter on. Almost everything that you're going to do in the table has to do with the filter. You can see previous filters here. You can edit filters, make more complex expressions here. That'll be another part of the manual. And you can remove or just clear the filter from here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and clear that. And then I just wanted to show you that you could quickly sort here, descending to C. I'm right in the middle. But you can see those active units here by sorting, or you can show active regen units here, and it will make that filter again. So you can always find your active regen units again. Now that those are going, those are active, let me bring the iPad over. Small, okay, here we go. And same as before, there's not a whole lot of retraining needed for the iPad. Just go up here to the import-export screen, and we're going to hit the synchronize button here. I'm going to go ahead and press that, and we can talk about some other changes. So this is going to bring over, obviously, the units and all of the activities associated with those units. There's also a new button up here for regens versus fuel breaks. If you're a fuel break user or a regen user, if you do have both, that's perfectly fine, but this button acts as a filter. So if you have regen and fuel breaks in your list on the left side and you set this to fuel breaks, you're only going to see fuel breaks here. That's important because this header information right here is different for field breaks versus regen units. So we have to have a different way to control that, and that's basically why that button's there. We also have this sync all units. It's just not available at the moment, but this will bring all the regen units on board. But you can't necessarily, that doesn't mean that you can add activities to them, but it just brings all of the regen units as a actual post-GIS layer onto your map so you can view all of that data. I would recommend doing that for most users just so you can see all the attribute information for all of the units in the field. Other than that, it's mostly just this report issue button. If you do have an issue with the iPad, you can fill out a form basically on the iPad and it will send it back to me so we can get something fixed for you. Okay, so now we're done with that. You can see the import is completed. I have my 9 regen units here. There's only 3 records on board, apparently. But you can add, now you're good to just do your normal workflow. I'll go ahead and add a record here, just to kind of a real quick one. Oh, that's like the most complicated one. One second. Let's get a simple one. Miscellaneous. Add a date, add a contractor. Put some test text. Okay. And we're going to save changes. So when I click this, just keep an eye at the top right or top left corner here where the cursor is. Yes. So see how it says exporting? Because I have internet connection at the moment, it's not going, there's no other button to press. It just knows that we need to synchronize that data. So if I actually go back here now, we're on 90.049. So here's the unit we just added. Now I want to see more information about this. Double click. Kind of the same functionality all through RMS3. Lots of double clicking and right clicking. So here's my unit. Here is all of the header information for that regen unit and then all of the activity information down here. And here is that miscellaneous activity that we just added. Not a lot of information there, but if we want to see it, double click. Now we're looking at the miscellaneous activity information itself. And it was a very simple one, but you can see that is in fact the data that I added. So pretty easy to pass the data back and forth. If you're in the field and you don't have internet service, it will just keep everything local to the iPad until you get back to cell reception or Wi-Fi. You would just then open up the RMS app and it will establish the connection and just automatically synchronize those. If for some reason all else fails, it will tell you right here that there's records on board that haven't been exported and you can press this button manually, but that should not be the case in most cases. Okay, so now we know how to basically import and export and that we're dealing with quite a different system with the database than we're used to, but it all is still pretty straightforward. There on the iPad we do have a couple new filters here, so you can filter the active units list by different activity type, or you can see things that haven't been exported. There's another button here that we can go into. There's another video in the manual for this, but this button here is a little pencil with a line through it. That's for draft activities, which is new to RMS3, and I do encourage looking that up in the manual. I'm going to go ahead and show that now, actually. If you need help getting started or if you have questions after you've been trying to use this, you can go to RMS3 manual under the help menu, and it just opens up this manual. Right now it's fairly comprehensive. There's a little bit missing, but we're going to add to it. So hopefully when you see this, it will be complete. And try to just kind of work your way through it. I think you can just click here, start This is where this video that I'm recording right now will be. And if you click here, it will get you to sort of a training. It's not really a formal training as much of it is just a guide to get you through the manual, the various sections of the manual that will help you understand all the things that are going on with the new app. But for the most part, I think you can kind of see how the tables work. Um, Double clicking to see more detail. That's the same if I open up all activities here. Um, Most of what you're going to end up doing here is trying to find units that you want to work on or that have been worked on. So everything will be based on filters, lots of filters. This cone here or this funnel, clicking on this funnel, same as in RMS2, can help you to limit the scope of the data. So I've got a filter now just for 1 year. You could add to that filter just a specific THP name and see at a glance all the activities to that THP. Looks like there's just a bunch of hand plantings in 2021. I think I'm going to cut it off there. We're a little over 15 minutes. For other questions, do reference that manual. If you have any bugs or any concerns or issues, help drop down report issue. This will send basically an email straight to me and make it easy for us to get things fixed. All right, thank you.